Welcome back to another team preview. Thank you to those who have been watching these team previews and showing love. I really do appreciate it. I know there's a ton of content out there. It seems everyone has an opinion on sports these days, so I'm thankful to those who are tuning in regularly. For this video, we got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I bet their regular season win total under. It's one of my more confident season-long bets, and I bet it a couple different times and have it at two different numbers, under 8.5 at minus 150 and under 8 at minus 130. If I'm going to win these bets, I'll need something to happen that's never happened before, and that's for Mike Tomlin, Steelers head coach, to have a losing NFL season. 17 straight seasons of 8 wins or more for the Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. He has never had a losing season as a head coach. He's had a few 8-8 seasons, but never more losses than wins. I will need this to be his first ever losing season if I'm going to win this bet. There's a popular saying in sports betting, never try and catch a falling knife. The way I interpret this is, don't try to time something out. Wait to see it first. If a team has won a bunch of consecutive games in a row, don't try and guess when they'll lose. Wait till they lose before betting against them. So I'm going against that theory here. I'm betting against Mike Tomlin and his streak. The main reason I don't think he has a winning season this season is because if you look at his past couple seasons, he's been extremely lucky to keep this winning streak alive. I think he practices voodoo or something. Going into last season, Tomlin and the Steelers were projected to be a league average team. Somehow Tomlin got his team to a 10-7 record before that wild card loss to the Bills. Everything went right for Pittsburgh last season. They entered that wild card round of the playoffs the only team with a negative point differential of minus 20. It's extremely rare for a playoff team to have allowed more points than they've scored. But once again, the Steelers last season were unbelievable in close games. They finished 9-2 in single-score games. They are now 34-11. That's a 74% win percentage in one-score games the last 4 seasons. And if you've watched some of these team previews, you've probably heard me bring up team records in those single-score games or one-possession games. These are games decided by 7 points or less, hence one-score game. There's a reason I note these with a lot of teams. In a football game, there's just a ton of randomness and luck that's involved. You know, a bad call from the ref, a tipped ball INT, a fluke fumble, a cornerback slipping resulting in a wide-open TD pass. The list goes on. The point is, a team that wins by a single score might not always be the better team. They could have just benefited from randomness or luck involved in a game. Now, of course, there are, teams that are just good at finding ways to win or winning close games that know how to win. Some teams just, have that knack. But for the most part, teams that win close games usually benefit from a lot of randomness or turnover luck that goes on within a game. So for the Steelers to go 9-2 in one-score games last year, that's an 82% win rate. There have only been 15 teams since the year 2000 that have won at least 80% of one-score outcomes in a single season. And only one of those teams, the 2020 Seahawks, improved their win total the next season. On average, the teams who win that 80% of one-score games win 3 fewer games the following season. Just last season, we saw the Vikings win 6 less games after winning at least 80% of one-score games. The Eagles, they won 3 less games after they won at least 80% of one-score games. So hopefully you guys are following me here. This makes sense because this perfectly explains regression. When a team has a season where they win a bunch of close games, it likely means they had a lot of luck and variance go their way, but luck and variance can't just continue season to season at such a high rate. So that's why we almost always see the teams regress heavily the next season because they used up all their good fortune. It's like if you're at the blackjack table and you win 10 hands in a row, the longer you keep playing, you'll probably eventually lose 10 hands in a row as well. Now, I think the Steelers' luck is going to run out this season. That's my point. Tomlin has had a bunch of winning seasons in a row because he had good teams with a solid quarterback for a while with Big Ben. But the last few seasons, it's been because of better than league average defense. I don't think the defense will be able to make up for the lack of offense this season. Now, Pitt faced a really tough strength of schedule last year. But literally everything went their way. They gained the second most net EPA due to turnovers last season. They recovered fumbles at the fourth highest rate. The defense faced the third most snaps against backup quarterbacks. Now this season, Pitt faces the second toughest overall strength of schedule. They're expected to face the toughest home schedule of any team. Based on my ratings, they will face 9 of my top 10 teams. Based on last year's rankings, Pitt is expected to face the top 5 toughest schedule of opposing pass offenses and pass defenses. Starting week 11, they'll face 8 straight teams I have rated in my top 12. It includes 6 divisional opponents, and then they get the Eagles and Chiefs outside the division. It's the single toughest schedule of any team in the final 8 weeks, but it's twice as hard as the second toughest. Starting in week 5, they play 4 non-Sunday games and 6 primetime games, and they'll have to play 3 games in 11 days from week 15 to week 17, starting with back-to-back road games at Philly and then at Baltimore. Then they come home to play KC on Christmas Day. It's just an absolute brutal late-season schedule, and just nothing about this team has me thinking they can overcome this tough schedule. I know it's only preseason, but week 2 of the preseason, Mike Tomlin told reporters they're treating the game with an all-in mentality. He played his first unit while the Bills sat all their guys. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields combined for just 3.7 yards per play and 219 total yards. Buffalo went on to win the game 9-3 with third string and practice squad guys playing all game. Steelers started running the option at one point. Some people think this was deceptive plan by Steelers' new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who was last year's Falcons head coach, but I'm not buying that this was just a deception plan by Arthur Smith. I think he tried it, thought it would work, and it failed miserably, and this is just the early signs of serious offensive problems for this Steelers team. And, I'm really surprised Pitt didn't hire an offensive coordinator from within, promote a guy within, and they went outside and got Arthur Smith. But no question, last season's offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, he had to go. The differences between last year's offensive coordinator, Matt Canada, and now Arthur Smith is pretty glaring. Matt Canada's biggest criticism was how he was just allergic to the middle of the field. He just refused to call any plays that targeted the middle of the field, run or pass. Arthur Smith, on the other hand, loves to run the ball up the middle. Last year, his offense was almost 13% below pass rate expectation, but he also loves to use double tight end formation, and when you think about that formation in the passing game, it's usually targeting the middle of the field. But your quarterback is also one that hates throwing over the middle of the field. The biggest criticism for Russell Wilson is how he never throws over the middle of the field. Russell Wilson's head coach in Denver last season, Sean Payton, was annoyed by Russell's refusal to throw over the middle. This was a big reason why they bumped heads. Wide open receivers schemed up and open by Peyton over the middle, but Wilson just ignored them. It's going to be a big problem again this year with scheme and play calling to what the QB prefers and does well. Russell Wilson is an old dog, and you know what they say about old dogs? They can't learn new tricks. And Wilson was just named the day 1 starter, which shouldn't be surprising. He's the type of player that probably had a hidden clause in his contract that he has to be the week 1 starter. I doubt he took the job without knowing for sure he'd be the starter, which makes sense why we're now starting to hear Justin Fields being tied to special teams rumors and like punt return stuff, or possibly returning kicks. I think Russ is washed up and Fields will eventually be the starter, but I do think they're going to hang on to Russ way too long before giving the keys to Fields. if Russell couldn't win with Sean Payton, I don't think him going to a worse offensive system with fewer skill position weapons is going to improve his game. Um, Russ, had the 5th highest sack to pressure rate. He's just not an elusive quarterback like he once was, and defenses, focusing much more on pressure and pass rush. You just can't get away with being a statue back there anymore. So I think there is upside for Fields once we see Russ start to get ragdolled in the backfield. I also think the combination of Russ and Fields should be better than what the Steelers had last year as a quarterback room, but the QB in this offensive system won't really even matter that much as compared to other teams. Pitt's going to be a very run-heavy team, try to play smash mouth, and we'll probably see a lot of play action with Russell Wilson chucking it deep on the outside. And I don't like their receivers for Pitt either. George Pickens is the only proven wideout. The defense is obviously the bright spot for the Steelers, led by defensive end T.J. Watt and his league-leading 19 sacks. When Watt starts, the Steelers are 69, 32, and 2. Both their edge guys are actually nasty. Opposite T.J. Watt is Alex Highsmith. Highsmith has 22 sacks combined over the last 2 seasons. Cam Hayward draws a lot of attention in the middle of the defensive line. That helps those edge guys from getting double-teamed. And, as good as this defensive front is at generating pressure, I do question their ability to stop the run. But Steelers did sign linebacker Patrick Queen from the Ravens. He'll be an immediate impact player. Secondary's pretty weak. Sophomore Joey Porter Jr. is going to be asked to be that shutdown corner. Dante Jackson and Lions reject Cam Sutton are not exactly the most reliable number 2 and 3 cover corners. Now, if Tomlin can get to 9 wins with this team against this schedule, he should be up for Coach of the Year. I mean, he's already the most profitable coach since the 2002 season. Even more profitable than Bill Belichick, the GOAT. Tomlin's great in the role of an underdog, but I think his time is up. Every dog has its day. Hopefully they don't get to 9 wins. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful or informative. I'm trying to make some of these videos shorter so I can get through them quicker, but I just don't want to leave out information. I get like FOMO, missing out, leaving stuff out. But let me stop here. Until next time, good luck with your bet.